Karmic love isn't your home, it's the fire exit. Alex didn't recognize it as karmic love at first. How could he? It arrived disguised as everything he'd been searching for: passionate, intense, seemingly destined. The synchronicities were too numerous. "I've never connected with anyone like this," she whispered during those early nights when they stayed awake until dawn, mapping the constellations of each other's minds. "It feels like we've known each other across lifetimes." And it did feel that way, familiar yet electric, comfortable yet thrilling. What Alex couldn't see then was how that familiarity wasn't the comfort of home, but the recognition of an old pattern, a less. The first warning flares came disguised as passion, arguments that burned to hot, reconciliations that felt like addiction rather than healing. Their connection wasn't gentle, it was consuming. He mistook intensity for depth, drama for destiny. His sister noticed first. "You've stopped painting," she pointed out 6 months in. "When's the last time you picked up a brush?" Alex couldn't remember. Somewhere between managing Sophia's emotional storms and trying to prove himself worthy of her love, he'd set aside the very thing that had once given his life meaning. That's normal when you're in love," he justified. "Everything else fades into the background." But it wasn't fading, it was burning. Slowly, methodically, the relationship was incinerating the structures of his life, the foundations he'd carefully built. His savings depleted, covering their expenses when Sophia lost another job. His boundaries eroded with each emergency that required him to drop everything and rescue her. His self-trust scorched by endless accusations that left him questioning his own perceptions. A year in, during a rare moment of clarity while Sophia was away visiting family, Alex sat in the strange silence of their apartment and finally saw the truth. This wasn't his home. It was a burning bee. Karmic relationships don't announce themselves with warning labels. They arrive as our most magnetic attractions, drawing us in with an almost supernatural pull. They mirror our deepest wounds and most desperate longings. They feel predestined because, in a sense, they are not as our final destination, but as necessary catalysts for our evolution. Alex remembered reading once that karmic connections aren't meant to be your forever. They're the fire exit through which you escape outdated versions of yourself. You're meant to recognize the flames. When Sophia returned, something had shifted in Alex's perception. He could suddenly see the karmic patterns they were both trapped in, her abandoned child wound seeking endless reassurance, his savior. "We need to talk," he began that evening, feeling both terrified and strangely peaceful. The ending wasn't clean or simple. Karmic separations rarely are. Sophia oscillated between begging him to stay and declaring she never needed him anyway. She predicted his inevitable regret, promised transformation, threatened self-destruction. Each response designed unconsciously but effectively to trigger his deepest fears about being cruel, making mistakes, causing harm. For weeks, he wavered at the threshold of the fire exit, 1 foot in and 1 foot out, choking on smoke but terrified of the fall. What finally pushed him through was the realization that staying wouldn't save either of them, it would only ensure they both burned. The months following the separation were brutal in their clarity. Without the relationship consuming his attention, Alex was forced to confront the devastation it had left behind, his finances in ruin. "I should have left at the first red flag," he told his therapist, anger flaring not at Sophia but at himself. "Perhaps," she replied, "but would you have understood the lesson then? Or would you have simply carried it into the next relationship?" That was the paradox of karmic love. You needed to go deep enough to recognize the pattern, but not so deep that you couldn't find your way back. The lesson wasn't just about identifying toxic dynamics. It was about understanding why they felt like home in the first place. Slowly, Alex began rebuilding. Each small act of self-trust, setting a boundary, honoring a commitment to himself, choosing growth over comfort, laid another foundation stone for his new life, the paint. 2 years later, when he met someone new, the difference was immediate and striking. Where Sophia had felt like a wildfire, Claire felt like sunlight, warming without burning, illuminating without consuming. Their connection wasn't characterized by desperate need or cosmic drama but by mutual growth, shared values, and a calm certainty. "How did you know I wasn't another karmic lesson?" Claire asked once, after he'd explained his past. "Because you felt like peace, not like destiny," Alex answered. "And because loving you doesn't require me to set myself on fire." The karmic relationship had indeed been his fire exit, not his home, but the necessary pathway through which he'd escaped an old version of himself. He'd been meant to see the flames, learn the lesson, and leave before everything he built turned to ash. The scars remained, but they had transformed into wisdom reminders that sometimes the most loving direction isn't further in, but safely out.